Wonder if any of you have ever had any desire to wrestle a giant sea turtle, as you see Uncle Stumbly doing here in the West Indies. That is exactly where we're going to take you tonight, to the West Indies, to the island of Grand Cayman, and we're going to go wrestling sea turtles, catching fish, and go lobster spearing as well. Once again, my name is Ted Peck, and a very pleasant welcome to Tides and Trails.
Tides and Trails is presented each week at this time by new Sportsman King-Size Filter Cigarettes. Now, here's Ted Peck.
So if all of you would like to rest easy and relax in your easy chairs all the way from Ontario right through to the west coast of Vancouver Island, we're going to take you on a West Indian holiday. We're going to show you this sea turtle business. We're going to show you fishing in tropical, beautiful, clear, not Mediterranean, of course, the Caribbean waters, and the lobster spearing as well. First of all, let me give you some idea of where we went to. Let us say, for instance, that Cuba looks something like this. It doesn't really. I'm not much of an artist. And Jamaica will be down here. Roughly speaking, the Grand Cayman Island actually belongs to the Cayman group. There's several islands in the group. Will be roughly about over here. And to enlarge this, I want to show you something about the island because it's quite unique in the tremendous area that it has for fishing and for underwater spear fishing and just plain swimming underwater as well. The island itself has a huge sound in it. It's a very small island, and all this is across here, let's say for instance, is under 10 feet deep. And beautiful blue water in here. Your two hotels, your main hotels, the Galleon Beach Hotel and the Grand Caymanian, are roughly over in here against this sea coast here. And when you go on the shallow end of the North Sound, you go across, you charter boats in here, or you just go out with a glass bottom boat. And all of this in here is fishable for giant barracuda, which you see us catch a few of, and also for the smaller types of fish that you'll see quite a lot of in the films. And we were transported there by the Pacific Western Airlines, who operate a brand new charter service now all the way from Vancouver right to this specific island. And I'd like to tell you something about that too. First of all, this is quite unique in Canadian travel history that you should go directly to the West Indies. And the PWA have started this regular winter holiday business. You go right from Vancouver and you spend as many days or so on as you like at these either one of these two hotels or operated by the Elgin Hotel chain. We went down on a 4-day quickie trip with a lot of the press and radio, magazine, and television people, and the results of which you're going to see in the following film. Now, imagine that you're now freezing to death, temperature being somewhere anywhere from 50 degrees below zero. If you're lucky enough to live on the west coast, it's probably a bit above zero. But the temperature where we went was somewhere in the neighborhood of 85 to 95 degrees, and you're there in a matter of hours from Vancouver. So let's go on a West Indian Grand Caymanian holiday. Here we are boarding the PWA DC-6 at Vancouver. And a lot of magazine and press and television, radio people, of course, are there. That's Mrs. Mitchell of the Western Homes magazine. And beautiful trip down, stopping at New Orleans for fuel. We came to the Grand Cayman Airport, where we were met by the local populace, including Miss Grand Cayman and some of the younger generation there. A royal welcome. Wonderful trip both ways with PWA, and I would certainly recommend this to you for a winter holiday. And you can stay, some of the people stayed on for 2 weeks. You know, fishing and swimming. There's marlin fishing available. There's large fish like the wahoo, which you'll see on a future show. Lots and lots of the smaller fish, or if you just like to laze around in the beautiful white coral sand, there's lots of that too. A few shots now of the countryside, the type of foliage growing around, a lot of white sand around, and the main city on the island of Grand Cayman is Georgetown, quite a well-populated and very fine city. Quite a religious one, as a matter of fact, a lot of churches. A little bit of a storm coming in off the Caribbean. They are subject to the odd type of semi-tropical storm, but there's plenty of warning, of course. The wireless service keeps you informed of this. This is a rougher than average day. When you were going out fishing or spear fishing, of course, you wouldn't go out on a day like this. Some of the churches. The people are much the same as the Jamaicans that you have seen in previous Tides and Trails shows. Originally from West African descent, but a lot of them now have been, of course, intermingled with various types of other races. Here's a unique car top in the post office. Quite a modern city, Georgetown, although there's not very many telephones on the island. It's only about 25 miles long. And your news comes off the wireless service from Jamaica. You get more Cuban music than you do Jamaican, Cuba being a little bit closer. And here's the Galleon Beach Hotel, beautiful structure, right on the beautiful Caribbean. The Canadian flag along with the Union Jack and the American flag flying. This was the first Canadian trip, an expedition planned specifically from Canada to the Grand Cayman Islands. The island itself is still a colony. It's in the British West Indies. It's not a dominion like Jamaica. It's a sign here. Lighters, gigs, and pinnaces draw alongside here. A lot of the old British traditions, and of course all the people of the island speak with quite a British accent. Miles and miles of sand beaches, swimming, and beautiful, clear, bluey-green water. The day we went out there, and this was on that big North Sound that you saw me draw that big bump on the north side of the island, all under 10 feet in depth, so ideal for skin diving, snorkel diving, and just straight spin fishing off a small boat. We went out with Harris Mitchell of the Mitchell Press and Western Homes magazine, and enjoyed a very, very fine day catching smallish fish, barracuda, and lobster spearing, as you'll see a little bit later on. The distance across this sound from where we chartered the boat to the little inn on the other side called Rum Point Inn, very aptly named, is about 10 miles. And all of it is fishable water, and there's little outcroppings of coral and rock that the captain of the charter boat will stop for you. And they're quite reasonably priced, the charter boats there. They're not as expensive as in Jamaica and Hawaii. Of course, they're not as large either. This fish that Mitch has caught is a needlefish. And it's a very long, skinny fish, which we use later for bait for barracuda. They have very, very sharp teeth. What a colorful silvery fish with dark blue back. But stay away from their teeth. They're violently razor sharp. My first little fish was less than 6 inches long. It's called a grunt. It actually makes an audible sound, a real grunting sound. And I put it up to my ear here, and you can actually hear it. I could, making this little sound. And they come in various colors, sizes, and shapes, up to about a foot long. There's a close-up of a tropical grunt. Again, good bait for larger fish, such as barracuda. But the tremendous clarity of the water is what impressed me the most, and the shallowness of it, and the numbers of fish. Almost every cast with almost any type of bait would produce a strike of some sort. And we caught about 15 different types of fish. This is a little grouper, a little much like the rockfish of the west coast. And they come in all sorts of sizes, up to about 1,200 pounds. We just caught a few small ones on this day. What a colorful fish, and very good eating. Mitch has got himself quite a large fish there, but he lost it. He hooked about a 25-pound barracuda, but it broke his line. What a light spinning tackle. This is a lot of fun. Most of the bait used is conch. And a lot of you people who live on the seacoast have heard of conch shells. And the conches of the, or conchs as they call them down there in the Caribbean, are much larger than the ones on the BC coast. And the meat inside them, the little animal that lives there, is just like an oyster. It's quite edible, even raw. And cooked, of course. They use it in various dishes, local native dishes. Finally cranking the motor going, we proceed along a little further on the expedition. Fishing another grunt, a little different species this time, a little larger one. See how clear the water is. It looks like it's only 2 or 3 inches deep. It's about 8 or 9 feet. But for a real Caribbean holiday, this Grand Cayman has not been exploited to the extent that some of the better known islands have been. And I'd like to compliment the people of the Elgin hotels once again. Their service was good, and their hotel, the Galleon Beach, where Bill Bennett and I stayed, and our manager John Barley was very well appointed. There's a barracuda. This one has caused me a great deal of trouble since. It bit me in the thumb. So be very careful of their teeth. And we show you a good shot of a barracuda's teeth. The marks on the side of that fish has been a bigger barracuda chase him. Just like needles. And they have a great capacity for taking a chunk out of you. And before we show you about the lobster spearing, the lobster of the Caribbean is not the same beastie as the one that is found on the Atlantic coast by any means. Just excuse me for a second, and I hope you'll join me in lighting up the Sportsman king-size filter. These lobsters on the Caribbean islands are weird and wonderful creatures, some of them going as big as about 10 pounds, but they don't have any claws. They don't have any of the real big pinchers as the Pacific Coast Dungeness crab does, or as the lobster of the Maritimes has. They just have these great long feelers. And a lot of people go out after lobsters at night in these Caribbean islands, and they spear them on the beaches. They come right up on land. What they are really is a great big overgrown crayfish, or crawfish, depending on what part of the country you come from. And lobster spearing is quite a sport amongst the local people. They sell them to the hotels, the Galleon Beach and the Grand Caymanian, and the Rum Point Inn and various other hotels that are in the area, the smaller ones. And they get quite a high price for them. And the big problem on lobsters is the fact that they're going to destroy their own source of livelihood if they do not watch out for the conservation measures. They don't seem to worry about females as they do on crabs on the Pacific coast, and they take small ones, some of them even as small as a pound or a pound and a half, 2 pounds. But I want you to notice the way the boys go down in the clear water with their spear guns, and the feed that they put on is simply tremendous. We boiled the lobsters right up on the beach, and you see the entire process, right from catching them live right through until the final cooked morsels are delicately hacked up by the members of our expedition. And this is really a must if you're going to the Caribbean, to eat fresh lobster when it comes right out of the Caribbean Ocean. Now, let's go back to Grand Cayman. They don't use tanks or suits or anything. The water temperature is well above 70 degrees. There's one of the boys picking out the conch, or conch, for bait for us that we were using a little bit before. Now he's going down to find various types of fish and lobsters. And the water is so tremendously clear. These pictures were taken from the bottom of a glass-bottom boat, and the depth was at least 15 feet, sometimes 20 feet. And up he comes for another type of fish, a grouper. But But their main purpose in skin diving here, and this is truly skin diving without the use of a lung, an artificial aqua lung. He comes up with another one, is to actually find the Caribbean lobster. A lot of true gourmets say that this lobster is not as edible or not as tasty as the maritime lobster, but to our palates, both Cameron and Bill and myself, we found them delicious. Caught us a couple of more fish just to show that we hadn't caught them all by hook and line. One of the boys was telling us that they were just as thick as fleas on a dog's back down there, various fishes. All sorts of tropical fish abound in the waters here. They're very, very highly colored. It's a shame, again, that we do not have color television to show you the tremendous colors, even on the conch shells. They have quite a capacity for a deep breath. They'll stay under as long as a minute and a half. Some of the boys there get quite adept at this, as young as 8 or 10 years of age. By the time they reach 25 or so, they can stay down, some of them almost 2 minutes. Some of them will come up, when they are spearing lobsters, they'll come up with 2 or 3 of them on a spear. And they actually have to hunt them in the holes in the coral mounds. They can spot the areas, as you see this chap here doing, from the top of the boat. They can see the mounds of rock and coral where the most likely fishing holes and lobster holes are going to be. And on a calm day, of course, they can see everything swimming underneath the boat. There's the first one of the lobsters. You notice the lack of the claws. They're little swimmerettes they move with. They're quite fast swimmers once they get out of their hole in the rocks. That would be about an average size one, about 3 pounds. You've got a good 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of edible meat there in the body and tail. Or is it abdomen and thorax or something, as I remember from my biology classes? The principle of spearing them is very simple. They just sort of prod them out with the spear, get them out of their hole in the rocks, and then just shoot them with their gun, an elastic spear gun. And here's one of the boys there with 2 of them. Matter of fact, I think they both have. An ample feed was obtained in a very, very short time in this North Sound area. But again, I think the question of conservation comes up here, because when the island becomes more populated with tourists, the lobsters will become more in demand. And you'll have to institute some sort of conservation measures on them. Having a Sportsman king-size filter. The boys really enjoyed.
Hi, how would you like to store your fish and game in this beautiful Philco freezer? Well, you can if you're one of the 21 lucky winners on our exciting new Tides and Trails contest. Just imagine having this beauty in your home. It has 18 cubic feet of space and holds 625 pounds of frozen food. It has 2 big baskets, 2 dividers, a juice caddy, and this large combination divider for your added convenience. It's a real beauty, isn't it? To enter the Tides and Trails contest, all you have to do is answer this question. How many gold leaves are there on a pack of Sportsman king-size filter cigarettes? Write your answer on a Sportsman cigarette package or facsimile and send it with your name and address to Tides and Trails, care of this station. Get your entries in today, as many as you like, and good luck. from the Western Winner, new Sportsman king-size filter cigarettes.
And now we come to the pleasant portion of the trip for the gourmets. We're now visiting a small inn here at the other side of the Sound called Rum Point Inn, operated by a Canadian from Ottawa, very fine chap, who has all the facilities for a real true Caribbean holiday. Much smaller, of course, than the large hotels we were staying at, and caters to the guests of the large hotels, too, who go there for sometimes during the middle of the day. Has a little eatery, and of course the other accoutrements and things that go with it. And he also has a large selection and size of coral sand beach, where the boys can build a fire and cook fresh lobster for you. And you see the process by which they do it, much the same as they do crabs on the Pacific coast. Firewood is a bit of a problem. There's not too much timber on the island, but they do manage to find a bit, and a bit of grass and so on, and a plain old pot. Boil up the lobster for at least 20 minutes until they turn a sort of a cross between deep pink and bright red. In this particular area, there was no wind blowing. There's a large one, about 10 pounds. A lot of them used to be this size, but the average size of them now has dropped down to about 3.5 pounds. I say the main problem here is finding something to create the fire with to cook them. When they're done, they're a bright red color, much as you'd find any other shellfish. And then it's a comparatively simple matter to break them open. And with a fork, you just sort of extricate the body meat from the shell. Or I don't know whether the word is exoskeleton or something like that in correct language. Then there's the little vein, of course, that goes down the middle of them. It's the same in large shrimps. Has to be to cut them open and remove that. And then the rest of it is all pure white lobster meat and very, very delicious. With a little lemon, salt and pepper. You couldn't hope or wish for a better feed. They keep telling me I should lose weight, but after these sort of things, I don't see how I'm possibly going to. Hope this is making you all as hungry as it's making me re-watching it again. And we certainly enjoyed our afternoon at Rum Point Inn there. Give little pussycat some fish. Quite an interested visitor. Boats from all over the island come to Rum Point for these lobster feeds. It's quite a famous place for it. But for a typical unspoiled island, this Grand Cayman is quite wonderful. And they have all the modern facilities. And as I say, it's a British possession. It's not a dominion yet. I presume it's operated by what they call an administrator rather than a governor. It's not large enough for a governor. Here we have the turtle pens, which the Cayman Islands at one time were famous for exporting. Now they're just kept in pens there and kept for the hotels. And here's Uncle Stumbly and friend going to wrestle the giant sea turtle. Some of them go up to about 350 pounds, and they have no teeth. They won't hurt you, but it's quite a lot of fun to get on their back and have them tow you around. In the old days, I imagine they had to do this to bring them to shore. Take quite a lot of deep breaths. A little bit different than the little tiny pet turtles the youngsters have in their little ponds and little aquariums. That one there would be a good 150-pounder. That is the turtle. The other one in the picture would be closer to 250 pounds. And then back, of course, on the charter trip, the PWA plane. And these trips are going to be operated every so often throughout the entire winter and spring season. And a beautiful closing shot of evening or sunset at Grand Cayman Island. Well, I hope you enjoyed that particular show, ladies and gentlemen. It was something different from our frozen Canadian North, and I know that you're going to enjoy a lot of the future shows that are coming up on Tides and Trails. Before we leave this particular episode, once again, I'd like to thank the Pacific Western Airlines and the Elgin Hotels for setting up this tremendous trip for cameraman Bill, manager John Barley, and myself. And in future, you're going to see an average of about, one in every 4 to 6 Tides and Trails episodes that will be done outside of the continent of North America. We intend to do a lot of local Canadian shows in every province of Canada and perhaps even in the United States as well. In the near future, there are shows planned for Mexico, in Los Angeles, again, in the frozen Canadian area of Port Arthur, and various other areas as well. We will try to emphasize the elements of sportsmanship above all and anything else. So remember that in closing tonight, just to remind, just because you saw us on a little bit of a holiday, that still the main purpose and reason for Tides and Trails is the promotion of conservation and sportsmanship all across this continent of ours. So once again, thanks for being with us. I hope you join us on our future out-of-the-country expeditions and as well as our local Canadian Tides and Trails episodes. But once again, be a true sportsman. Smoke Sportsman king-size filter cigarette. Ted Peck wishing you all the best. And, as usual, tight lines, straight shooting.
Tides and Trails was brought to you by new Sportsman king-size filter cigarettes. Join Ted Peck next week at the same time. Tides and Trails was produced for Sportsman Cigarettes by CHAN-TV, Vancouver.